Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today's video is going to be on irrigation, what we're doing, what we're going to do in the future. We're going to start with this portable irrigation setup. We referred to it in the last video. This is a Harbor Freight pump, 1-inch pump, and we have it set up to just kind of move around. It doesn't ever stay in one spot. This is a 65-gallon tank that we picked up at Rural King. My sticker is still on it. Gave $129 for that tank. We gave $189 for this pump. We're using 100 foot of just garden hose. Got a sprinkler wand with some adjustable settings on it. And we've got all this set up where we can just quick connect. This is just push this in and pull it out. We've converted this from a 1-inch pipe thread all the way down to just hose thread, and then put the quick connectors on the hose thread. Over here we've done the same thing. It's hose thread. It's pretty important to filter all of this water that's coming out of this tank, whether it's going through drip tape or a sprinkler wand like this. This tank gets all kinds of stuff in it, and occasionally we'll put fertilizer in it. We will put fish emulsion in it, and that stuff can stop up drip emitters, can stop up this sprinkler hose wand, can stop up a number of things. So this is pretty critical to have this on here, and you'll be checking this filter pretty regular as you fill this tank up. We hand water a lot of beds. If you go back to the vlog video number 1, you'll see me talk about that upper bed. We hand water that bed. If we're trying to put down a lot of fertilizer, we'll hand water inside the greenhouse. Probably for next year, we may be hand watering over here some. I did a little test this morning, and I will cut to some pictures and as we move through this video. But before this video, I did not know what this pump was doing. I put a pressure gauge on it, and I tested the flow. And of course, this is just a flexible supply line for a washing machine. Had a couple of these left over. They're got the same ends, so they work perfect for what we're doing. And on this setup, coming through, this is probably 1/2-inch line, and through 100 foot of hose through that sprinkler wand, we're getting about 3.33 gallons per minute. Took about 1.5 minutes to fill up a 5-gallon bucket. And so I changed this over to a 3/4-inch polyethylene pipe, and I was able to get it up to 4 gallons per minute. That was with the throttle. That's with the throttle pushed all the way over. I know in the video it doesn't look like it's all the way over, but it is. I even switched this hose out to a 50-foot hose, and I was still getting the same reading. And I've got a picture of the pressure that I was pushing that 4 gallons per minute at, and I was when I had the 3/4-inch line on, I was able to pump the 4 gallons a minute at 20 psi, which is more than enough for drip tape. Really, your drip tape's, about 10 psi is what you need. On this 1/2-inch line at 3.3 gallons per minute, regardless of the hose length, 100 foot or 50 foot, I was doing that 3.3 gallons per minute at around 10 to 15 psi, which is still enough. Now, if your zone is big, you got a lot of drip tape, you're probably going to need to break that down into smaller zones. But this little setup works perfect for moving around, watering stuff. It also works great for doing spray applications, BT. That's mainly what I would be running through this tank. I haven't ever really run anything else through this tank, just BT for caterpillars. Turn that hose down, put it on the mist setting, So you got different settings here. Put this on the mist setting, and I didn't check the pressure on that, but it's, when I've got this engine running and there's no water coming out of that sprinkler, just static pressure alone says there's about 40 psi. I can tell you that it's good enough to spray the BT and get good coverage. Let's look at our irrigation setup for the rest of the farm. Overlook some of the mess here, guys, but we have the well, and we can turn valves here and go from city water to the well water, vice versa. And likewise, when I get ready to winterize this system, I can hook a air hose up and I can blow every zone out. So let's look at our zones. Here we have our irrigation controller. We can control any of the zones on the farm. This is a 4-zone controller. We're only using 3 zones. The nice thing about this setup right here is this little chip right here. This thing talks to the router in the house. I've got an app on my phone. I can control these zones from anywhere in the world that I would have access to internet. So move around here, guys. Valve box, manifold, and 3 Rainbird controllers. Valves, those can be manually turned on if I needed them to be turned on. We've got a siphon system here, so if we want to do fertigation, we can. Many of you guys, you're watching this video, you would know how that works. You plug your tube in here, drop it over in a bucket of fertilizer, would shut this line completely off, redirect all the water through here, and it'll pull a vacuum and suck that in. If I need to, if it's pulling too hard, I can adjust by opening this valve back up. So zone 1 is everything you see in these outside beds, plus the greenhouse back there. Zone 2 is all of the blueberries that you see in the back, 120 something bushes. They're all zone 2. That's all that's on that zone. Zone 3, never actually used zone 3. But it will be, it's this greenhouse here. And you can see it. You see that valve box on the ground right there in the corner. Just never hooked it up. It's going to get hooked up eventually, but that'll be zone 3. I have no plans right now for zone 4. Maybe in the future. Now over here in zone 1, and this is not ideal, but this is just how I did it. Zone 1 comes to these 2 boxes right here. And these are just spigot valves that we're hooking garden hoses to. And this hose goes to the greenhouse, and this hose is doing the outside beds. And you can see 3/4 inch polyethylene pipe running the whole length here. And attached to that, we have just your standard barb insert fitting. We use the punch tool and then push these in, and that'll take care of that. We terminate these ends with something similar. Just they slip right on, and you screw that blue nut down, and that's that. If you need to pin this to the ground, you've got a hook, you can do that. Now, one thing I should say, if you're using fittings like this, and the whole zone has fittings like this, when this zone runs, everything runs. And if you've got stuff out here that doesn't need as much water, you need to use a different fitting. You need to go to something like this, where you can control this bed by itself. You could turn this zone on, and all of those beds that have the standard fitting, they're going to be running. But if this bed has the butterfly valves, then I can turn them off. They don't have to run when the rest of the zone runs. And so those are a little more expensive, but they give you more flexibility. If you don't have a good supply of water. You're limited on how many gallons per minute you can pump at any given time. Then you probably need to be using these and turning a few beds off, run a few beds, then turn others off, turn these on, vice versa. On in the greenhouse, it's very much a similar setup. Now here again, filter. I didn't point the one out in the well house, but there's a filter that all that water passes through in the well house before it comes out here to the zone. Then it gets filtered one more time at the zone. If you're irrigating through drip tape, you need to have a pressure regulator. They make them in all sizes, 8 pounds, 10 pounds, 15 pounds. You just need to figure out what is working for you and get that one. I would say a 10 pound would be a good place to start. In the greenhouse, very similar setup. 3/4 inch header pipe. These little manifolds that neck it down to a 1/2 inch polyethylene, and we can control each bed with that. So we can essentially turn zone 1 on, turn the outside beds off, send all the water in here, and then we can go individual bed if we need to. We have a little, call that a sub manifold if you want to. No need to have the butterfly valves in here, because if we water this bed, we want to water the whole thing. So that's that setup. And when we built this greenhouse, there was a huge oak tree right here where this bed breaks, and there was nothing we could do with this big stump. So we break this bed right here, and we run a 3/4 inch line up, pick it back up right here. Cannot till in this area, this big stump. And so that's how we broke things up in the greenhouse. Every bed in the greenhouse has got 3 runs of drip tape in it. You can do the math, guys, on your drip tape and figure out how many gallons per minute you would need to service a zone. This tape, all the tape that you've seen in this video thus far, is a 12-inch emitter, and I believe it's the high flow version of the 12-inch emitter, which is 0.45 gallons per minute per 100 feet. So add up how many 100 foot of drip tape you got. Just add up all the feet, the footage, and divide by 100, and then multiply that times the flow rate of your tape. A 12-inch tape is 0.22 gallons per minute per 100 foot. Low flow, the high flow is 0.45. They've got a high and low flow version of the 8-inch tape. Probably make some 6-inch tape too, and may even make some that's even closer than that. If you're growing greens, sometimes you want it to be closer. Growing tomatoes, 12 inches is good. 12 inches is just a good place to start, get familiar with it, and then adjust from there. Guys, you know, we have said in the last video, you know, we don't have irrigation up at the top this year, but what we're going to do up there is run a header pipe and bury drip tape, and I'll tow this portable irrigation unit up there and hook up to it. 60 gallons of water will be good for it at a time. We're going to do that down there below the house too, in that sweet corn bed. We're going to run a header pipe and lay drip tape on that corn. Over here, this is what this setup looks like. It's just very much similar to what you've already seen. Pardon the mess. We've harvested these tomatoes and we've cut them out. We've got a mess here. We're going to clean that up today. But header pipe, 3/4 inch. We've got our valves. We can control each run individually if we need to. We have not used the irrigation pump on this yet because we're so close to the well house. We can just use the well water, and it's been working good. That's our irrigation setup. Now stay tuned for a future video where we are going to tie this tank into the system with some pumps. Probably gonna have 2 pumps, and you know, I don't know if this tank is gonna be oriented this way. It's gonna be in this corner, at least I think it is, because we have 220 power right here in the back of this shop. So I think we can we can wire us up maybe a 3/4 or 1 horsepower pump right here at the tank, and then run a line all the way down here to the creek. Let's just go to the creek. Here we are at the creek, guys. Got a 1-inch line sticking out right here. This is going to be our intake line to send the water from the creek, that you can see there, to the house. Now, probably what we're going to do is pump this water to our tank. Now, we're dealing with surface water again here, and I can't emphasize filters enough. You got to filter this water. This water's got to be filtered before it gets in this line. We'll probably do a swimming pool filter, it's like a sand media filter, send it through, come through the pump, go through the filter into this line. We'll send it to that tank up there, and then we'll have 2,500 to 2,600 gallons of water that we can call on whenever we need it. Use it in any zone. We'll plumb that into the lines that go to those valves, and we can send that water to any zone that we need to. Give us the most flexibility that we can possibly have. Guys, if you've seen anything in this video, you got a question, put it in the comments. We want to help you guys grow better. We want to learn too. We appreciate you watching the video. Stay tuned for more. Thanks, guys.